Welcome to the Eat Your Content podcast. My name is Rich Herrera. I am your host, and this is your pod for all things food and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in. You have a lot of pods to choose from, but you chose mine, so I appreciate it. Just a reminder to follow me on socials at Rich Herrera and at Eat Your Content on Instagram, X, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at Eat Your Content. So please follow me there. And also make sure to like and subscribe on your podcast player of choice to be notified of when new episodes drop. So we are on week 4 of Top Chef season 21. This is the title, The Wright Way. We're going to talk about Frank Lloyd Wright here in a little bit. A lot of inspiration coming from that. Joining me today, as he has been for the past 3 weeks and the rest of this season, is outdoor chef extraordinaire who is actually outdoors at the moment recording this fresh off the golf course, Chef Amadeus. Welcome back to the pod.
Hey, man. As always, it's great to be out here, man.
Yeah, out there in nature hitting some golf balls, huh?
Yeah, I got to work on that golf game.
Golf, I never could get into golf. To me, golf was just a good walk ruined, as Mark Twain used to say.
Well, here's the thing about golf that you have to understand. Golf is the only place you can legally drink and drive for 4 hours.
Oh, Lord. Funny. So a couple of program reminders before we get started. We are recapping Top Chef all throughout season 21. So make sure you are following on your podcast player choice so you'll know whenever every episode drops. Let's get right to it. I mean, this was a pretty jam-packed episode. We come in. There is no quick fire. So Kristen mentions about something, they're building up to something big. I was kind of like, oh no, I wonder what they're doing. So the challenge, we're going to go right into the elimination challenge. Is they're going to create 2 dishes, the chefs are, inspired by the creations of Frank Lloyd Wright. He's an architect based out of Wisconsin. And the theme of duality, I thought this was really interesting. So I'm not a big architecture guy, so everything I learned about Frank Lloyd Wright was, a little bit in some history books, but, just watching the episode this week. Frank Lloyd Wright's design was a lot of duality, they said, of compression and release. So when you walk into a Frank Lloyd Wright room or a building, you're met with kind of like low ceilings, so you're kind of compressed, and you walk into the main area and it's release, where it's this, you open up to a big area there. I think this challenge was their first real kind of creative challenge. Like the first one was kind of testing their skills on different food. With pasta and soup and all that. The second one was, pairing taking a salty snack and creating a dish out of it. And then last week was, making a cheese forward dish at a catering party. I think this challenge in particular is their first real outside of their comfort zone, really seeing a challenge, a pretty wide open challenge, and them just saying, be creative with it within these realms of Frank Lloyd Wright and duality. So creating 2 dishes of duality. What did you think of this particular challenge when you heard it, and you kind of, I don't know, maybe you paused it or whatever to digest what the instructions were? What were your thoughts going into this challenge as a chef? What, you kind of put yourself in their shoes. What are you thinking?
Well, as a chef, the first thing I thought about was, the contrast, like you said, duality. And looking at the houses, the structure and everything, I think I would have took the same approach that Danny and Rasika did. It looked the same, but it's different.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm gonna tell you this here, you had to have the right partner with the same mentality. I mean, they went into it with structure, lines, symmetry. I would have went that route that they took.
Yeah. We'll definitely talk about Danny and Rasika.
Yeah,
we'll definitely talk about Danny Rasika a lot here in a little bit. I just thought it was a really interesting challenge, and this is the first time, like I said, the chefs were pushed out of the nest a little bit. I think the first 3 challenges were really just warm-ups. They were testing what they could do skill-wise and technical-wise. But this one was really like, okay, food is art, right? Now, food is art. Here's your inspiration. Frank Lloyd Wright was an artist in creating buildings, and natural materials was his paintbrush and his canvas and buildings. Now we're talking about translating that into a plate of food, which I thought was really an interesting challenge. So, uh,
it was very interesting that the way each team looked at it. But I think one of the things that they were doing was they were given a wide parameter, and
yeah,
they get to put themselves skill set wise and imagination and creativity on the plate, from
yeah,
plating to flavor to texture.
technique.
And yeah, it was just I was very impressed with this challenge. And this was, I think, like you say, one of their hardest challenges because they had no parameters. They like, just go cook something that reminds me of that building or
Right.
that of those architects. And
And that
some of them
theme.
pulled it off. Some of them struggled with it.
Yeah,
Even
some
in
of them
the
had.
grocery store, you can tell who was a team and who was
Hmm.
solo.
Right, right. And speaking of which, this is how they were cooking. So it wasn't an individual challenge, it was a team's challenge. It was really a pair challenge. But instead of drawing knives, it was, just pair up. Kristen said just pair up with whoever you want to pair up with. Which really kind of broke down interestingly. So let's talk about just very quickly, not about the dishes necessarily, but some of the pairings, and we'll get into the dishes in a little bit. So we had Kalina and Alicia team up, and they were kind of bonding over being both from Chicago. Really, they had
Yep.
nothing in common, and they didn't really know each other. I mean, throughout the episode, you kind of hear them talking like, I think I think it was Alicia that said, I don't really know Kalina. I barely even cooked next to her, let alone with her. So they've never been on a team together. They never cooked even next to each other in the Top Chef kitchen. So Kalina and Alicia kind of just tripped up. They next to each other. Manny and Kevin, I thought were a great couple. They kind of bonded over being on the bottom in the last couple of challenges, so they called themselves the Power Bottoms. Read into that what you want, but they called them the Power Bottoms. And then Savannah and Laura. Savannah I think, had a great line. She ain't playing. She's like, double elimination is terrifying, but I'm also happy I don't go home. This is the top 10, and I want people to drop like flies.
Yep.
Um, so who were some of your kind of favorite teams going into this?
The first one was Danny and
Yeah, the
you
running
know
buddies,
what?
Danny and Rasika, right?
When those two hooked up, all I could say was Rich.
Yeah, we'll get into the points later. We'll get into the points later.
And then I think Michelle and Charlie, they were good. And then he got lucky. He got
Yeah,
lucky.
yeah, let's talk about that for a second because Michelle has immunity from winning the last elimination challenge, and Charlie gets paired with her. And because this is a double elimination this episode, so two people go home instead of just one, Michelle's elimination transfers to Charlie, and Charlie's automatically immune. Now, I didn't I don't think I like this that much because Charlie hasn't really put up any real winning dishes. Michelle has. And so just to get immunity by lucking out being paired with Michelle, I wasn't very good with that. I didn't like it. I think probably if I were a chef, they got eliminated because I wasn't immune and Charlie cooked a worse dish than me and he got immunity just because he was paired with Michelle. I'd have been pissed. But I mean, I get the logistics of it. You have two people going home. It's more dramatic if it's a team. So I kind of get it. Doesn't mean I like it or was happy
But
with it.
here's
What
the
did you
thing,
think?
though. Here's what I thought. The fact that they didn't pair them up, people chose who they want to be, and nobody
Right,
wanted
right,
to
right,
go
right,
with
right, right.
Michelle. Nobody wanted to go with Michelle, and Charlie like, I'll take her. I'll be on her team, not
Y- Yeah,
knowing
yeah,
he was going to take on her immunity. Um, and when you pick somebody, it's like that's who you came to the dance with. So y'all gotta figure out what you're gonna do, how you're gonna do it. And for me, I would have, by watching other chefs in the last couple of weeks, that's how I would have paired up myself with.
yeah.
And so I think that's what Danny and Danny did. He's like, oh, she's killing it right now. So I'm gonna hop on with her. And I think everybody else did the same thing. They were like, okay, yeah, just because you're standing next to that person doesn't mean you can't move to the next person over and team up with them. So that was something that they did. It wasn't like, you pull knives or they said, okay, I'm gonna put you two together, I'm gonna put you two together.
Right.
It's a free for all. Once again, you had the opportunity to pick who you want. And the fact that nobody wanted to be with Michelle, I was stunned.
Yeah. I think what people didn't realize is that what you're saying is that the immunity would have rubbed off on them. But because when you're paired up, and this happens in previous seasons where you're paired up with somebody that's got immunity, instead of a 50% chance of going home, it could be 100% chance you're going home. So I think a lot of
Right.
people avoided Michelle because they thought, well, she's got immunity. I don't want to be paired up with somebody that's got immunity. Then all eyes are on me. And then the news came that Charlie's has immunity from elimination, so he was obviously breathing a sigh of relief, which was probably a good thing when we talk about their dishes. So, but yeah, Danny and Rossica, I thought was a really great pairing, and they've been running in the morning every morning.
Yeah.
In a previous episode, they're running buddies, so they got to know each other like over the course of however many weeks they've been there up until that point. So I think that was a naturally good pairing. And then with Michelle and with Charlie, we were talking, and Michelle's like, yeah, I'm worried about this challenge and being outside my wheelhouse. But she's proven now that she's comfortable outside of her wheelhouse. So I'm not really for sure what she's afraid of anymore. But she has been in a lot of challenges, like the pasta challenge at the beginning, where she's like, I don't know if I could do pasta, and then she kills a pasta. So at this point, I think Michelle's kind of like, trying to play the underdog, but isn't really. I think she's just killing it. So
Well, I think that comes down to Michelle. Like I said, she's a pit master.
yeah.
And so she's a pit master and she's a Southern girl. So you see what her dish was. It was a Southern dish
Hmm.
with a big twist on it. And she tried something out of her wheelhouse. I'm sure she know how to make biscuits, but to do it the way she did it, it was probably a thought that she had previous, whatever. And I think that's her thing. Like, okay, let's try this and see what happens. But then again, when you have immunity, you have the ability to push the envelope just a little further, considering you're not going home.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And
true.
and I think she took advantage of that to try something out of her normal wheelhouse. And I think she did a good job. And I think now when people hear her say, I don't know like this is out of my wheelhouse, they're like, yeah, whatever. She's gonna blow this out the water.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking when I was watching that confessional interview. I'm like, come on, Michelle, you got this. So let's talk about the guest judges for the elimination challenge. One of the guest judges, is Top Chef season 19 and 20 winner, and I think probably the best to ever play the game. Buddha Lowe, friend of the pod. He was on my podcast last year. He did an interview with me from the comfort of his walk-in fridge at his restaurant in New York. So I was really happy to see Buddha Lowe back. If you want to hear the interview, it's episode number 22. So go back and listen to that. And also three-star Michelin chef Dominique Crenn, which Kevin from France was very happy to see. I mean, that's an intimidating. Besides the three judges that are already there with Kristen, Kristen, Gail, and Tom. You already have Buddha Lowe in there, and a three-star Michelin chef Dominic Crenn. That's got to be intimidating, right? So when you saw those judges, what'd you think?
I put them like you gotta bring your A game because once again, like the regular judges, been there, done that, seen it. You can't hide anything from them. They know where to look for the flaws. Their palettes are amazing. Because as you see, they talked about the acidity in it, they talk about the texture in it. So they're not just seeing the dish, they're tasting, and not just for flavor. They tasting for texture. They tasting to see if the story that they told matches what they put on the plate. And that's a big
Yep.
thing because when I'm judging competitions, we look at what the menu says. If your menu says XYZ, then that's what I'm looking for. And if it's not there, you kind of get dinged on it.
Yep. Yep. And
I know what you were trying to do, but didn't come off right for whatever reason, whether you didn't have enough time or time just got away from you or whatever it is like that. So having that panel looking at you, and we talked about Tom. Tom
Yeah.
gives you that look like, that's
Hmm.
what you're going
Hmm.
with, right? Okay, all right. We'll see. We'll see what happens. The fact that they were in the restaurant that was built by this amazing architect, and the one thing I love about Top Chef is they put these chefs in some amazing kitchens and
Oh
places
yeah.
to cook. I mean, think about it. When they did the hops, they were in a cave.
Yep.
I mean, what chef wouldn't love to say, you know what, I've cooked at this place. I
Yeah.
cooked with this chef. I cooked for that chef. And
Yep.
the bonding that goes on after the show.
Yep.
Because even with me, the people that were judging mine, like Simon. Simon was a judge on my show, and I chat with him from time to time. I just wished him a happy birthday. So it's just that bonding that you have, and that should take you whatever you do next. You should remember all the things that you learned from yourself and from that judge.
Yeah. When they bring out the big gun judges like Dominique Crenn, like Abudalo, and the chefs are starstruck, you know that this is a serious challenge that they like you said have to bring their A game. So
Yeah,
so
it's always fun to be cooking for someone that you admire as with their skill sets. I've had to come across that maybe like 3 times in my career, and it was like, oh, I'm kind of nervous, but yeah, the first time I had that happen to me, I went to culinary school here in Jacksonville, and then I went back as a guest chef. And when I was in school, he was my first instructor. Now he was running the whole program.
oh wow.
So so I was like, oh my God, what are you gonna say? And he was very impressed with what I did and how I did it and everything. So I kept looking on my shoulder. Everybody like, what are you looking for? I was like, I'm waiting on Chef Wolf to walk through the door.
So the challenge is set, and they're told to pack a bag. They're heading to Madison, Wisconsin, and they're going to go via the Frank Lloyd Wright kind of a tourist scenic drive to get some inspiration for their dishes. So they stop at 3 places that Frank Lloyd Wright had a hand in designing or creating or building. The first stop is Burnham Block, which was affordable housing units designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. So they get out, they stop, they look around, and look at all these, and looking at all these apartment complexes that were designed by Wright, and showing that affordable housing doesn't have to be run down. And
Right.
when I was looking at it, I was like, man, those are nice. Those are
Really
really
nice.
super nice apartments. So you hear a lot of chefs talking about the coloring and what they're going to use for their dishes and things like that. And then the next stop they go to is Monona Terrace Community and Convention Center, which was created by Frank Lloyd Wright. And you can really see the concept of compression and release here. When they walk through the hall, they have those drop ceilings, walk through the hall, and then they walk out to the main area, this huge like picture gallery window overlooking the lake. And then they finally end up at Taliesin in Spring Green, which is his drafting studio and school and everything. And so, what did you think? What were your takeaways from visiting these 3 places, and kind of what inspiration came to you if you were cooking? And what did you think of kind of the chefs, what they were thinking up as they were looking at these buildings that Wright created?
Well, first I'm gonna go with Danny. They were looking at the symmetry, the lines, how they were so perfect and straight, and it showed in their dish. The way they were looking at, like, Michelle and Charlie, they're looking at the browns, they're like looking at chicken and the egg, and and they went back to how they grew up, the chicken and the egg and all those things there. I like how they were taking notes, and I would love to see what they were scribbling down, whether it was
Yeah.
food, whether it was a drawing or something like that. Because I'm always carrying a tablet with me, writing things down, taking notes on my phone. I have when I was a young cook, I worked with a chef, Chef Sheldon, Chef Sheldon Harris, and one of the things he's told me when I say young, I was just this was back in the 90s. He told me every day come up with a new dish. You don't have to cook it, you just have to come up with it.
Right.
And so I tell all the cooks that they always tell me, man, I appreciate you telling me that. So I still do that to this day. And it's been over 30 years that he told me that. And I still have stuff on my phone that says quick thoughts, and it's just random things that I can pull from when someone says, come cook for me. So that's why I say, they all carry books with them. So if I think if anything, if the young cooks that's watching this, take that to heart and say, let me carry a book with me and write things down. Draw out your dish. If you have an idea, draw it out. And it doesn't have to make sense to anybody but you because it's your book. So
Right.
I was very inspired by that. Cause like I said, I do that all the time. So, and then like I said, to see them write it down, you hear their conversations of what they were doing, go to the store, see what they're talking about. And once again, like I said, you can tell in the store who was a team and who was just doing their own thing, hoping to match up with their partner.
Yeah. I would love to get a peek in their notebooks and because I know a lot of chefs sketch their dishes,
Yes.
right? And kind of do drawings and things like that. So I would have loved to have seen each of their notebooks and seen how they do that and get a peek into their minds a little bit. So let's talk about the meal service. So we're gonna break down the pairs. We're gonna talk about all the dishes and kind of what we thought and what the judges thought. So first up is Danny and Rasika. Their duality theme was seemingly similar, strikingly different. So Danny's dish was a scallop mousse, zucchini, and green chartreuse, and Rasika was a dal quenelle, pickled beets, carrot puree, and a sauce that she called rasam. These dishes looked exactly alike, but tasted very differently. I mean, they are a scary team. They're so technically good and really starting this particular challenge, really starting to separate themselves from the rest of the pack.
They
And
broke out the ruler and it was over. When
oh
they
yeah,
broke out the ruler, it's a wrap.
they were breaking out the ruler and measuring like the tape, that they were cutting on and making sure everything was exactly uniform. Danny's tweezering like a madman. Rasika digs into her familial background for inspiration. Her that rasam that everybody loved was from her
Oh, wait a
grandmother.
minute, wait a minute. Hold on, Rich. When they did that, I thought about our first show and we were picking teams.
Yep.
Do you see why I picked not
Yep.
what their background, well, not what their resume was, but where they're from?
Yeah. Yeah.
She
Yeah.
dug deep and pulled out things that you never even heard of, but to her, it's familiar.
Right. And Tom was like, "What is this?" "Oh, it's rasam. It's something my grandmother used to make it all the time," and he was like blown away. And so, I mean, right off the start, I mean, this team, this is going to be a scary pair to watch the rest of the challenge or the rest of
Yes,
the season. And they were just in the zone. This was a challenge that they really dug and they really enjoyed, and you could tell they were
they're
in the
excited.
zone. They were excited. They were in the zone. They were cooking like they were unconscious. And it was scary. So Dominique and
They
Buddha,
cooked. I'm gonna tell you this: they cooked like they have done competitions before
yes,
together. Like
yes,
you do this, and I'm a copy you, and here's my texture. Here's what we're gonna do. Then he broke out his molds, his quenelle molds, and nobody else broke those things out but
yeah,
those two:
yeah.
the ruler, the molds, the tweezers. This the I was all I can say was Rich must be doing backflips.
I mean, I'm thrilled. Just again, I love watching professionals do their thing, and watching them cook in this episode was so thrilling to watch. But in the back of my head, I'm like, dang it, this is gonna kill me in the points. It's just gonna because they were so far and away the best team. I mean, no spoiler alert, I guess, but from the very get go, everyone was playing
It,
for second place after that.
it's like he said, it was them and everybody else. Nobody was close to that team. Nobody was close,
Right.
and it was like so. But here's the other thing with the double elimination: it's it's shrinking the middle of the pack.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's shrinking you can't hide anymore because of that double elimination, and you can't you can't sit back on what you did last week.
Yep.
You can't do that now. You have to bring, especially watching these two, you gotta go back to your room and be like, woo, let me
Yeah.
open up to page 48 to page 100 because I gotta go deep in my bag for these two.
Yeah. So let's talk about what the judges thought real quick. So Dominique and Buddha thought that they successfully achieved their duality. And I really think they were the only pair that understood the assignment, that understood
Yep.
what this challenge was about. Rosika's dish had a good spice and acidity and texture, and it was a good contrast to Danny's milder flavors. And Tom said, "Good start." So I mean, yeah, good start. I mean,
Great start.
that's your standard, and I think that's why every dish after this one was just a disappointment to them after that. So moving on to the next team was Amanda and Dan. So their duality was poverty and wealth. So Amanda did angel hair pasta with scallop, caviar, kombu oil, and a seafood broth. So she was the wealth side of the duality. Whereas Dan was on the other side doing a leek cannoli with potato mousse, potato tuile, pickle, and kombu salad. They said the Dan's dish had a good story, but the leek needed to be cooked more, and the tuiles were salty. Amanda's seafood was nicely cooked. The pasta was well made. The scallop was nice, but they both overthought trying to make their plating look beautiful. So the plating wasn't quite there. So the flavors were, but I don't think anybody was really overwhelmed with Amanda or Dan. What'd you think?
Same thing. They completed the assignment. They completed the assignment. They
Yeah,
didn't they didn't blow it away. Um, they walked into this like, okay, we're gonna do rich and poor, but the execution wasn't there.
yeah,
And like I said, like they said, the story was great. They all had great stories, but it didn't transfer to the plate.
yeah. So Alicia and Kalina, and I think this was the pairing of the night. I think Alicia and Kalina, their duality was land and sea. So Alicia did an aqua chile with shrimp, cucumber, and lime. Kalina did a mushroom and goat cheese cheesecake, sesame tuile, candied mushrooms, and a spruce syrup. I think from the get go, I don't know if they like each other. I mean, honestly, they kind of were butting heads pretty much from the whole challenge. Um, Tom said that the crust was just bad, and watching them trying to eat this crust and hearing the silverware hit the crust like you were hitting a piece of like metal, I
It
was
was a thump.
cringing. Yeah, it was
It
a
was a
thump.
thump.
I mean, you think about a cheesecake crust, even if it's a savory. I've had savory cheesecakes, and but the crust is not supposed to be like hardtack. I think Tom said it was an
No.
MRE meal.
When he
So it,
said that, I was like, wow, he went there on that one.
yeah,
Have you ever
yeah.
had an MRE? Have you ever had an MRE?
I've had MREs. Yeah, I
Oh,
have 25-year shelf stable food in my garage, so I've
oh,
taste tested some of
dude.
that stuff. It's rough, but
It's a survival food.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't like I said, I don't think they even liked each other. It was funny at the beginning during the challenge when they found out that I think Frank Lloyd Wright was a Gemini or something. Alicia said, "Oh, I hate Geminis," and Kalina's like, "I'm a Gemini," and then she started
Oh,
backtracking. Oh, you gotta hate that. And I think Alicia had the line of the night. She said, "It shouldn't be us against each other. It should be us against the problem." So their dishes were just both dishes were bad according to the judges. So Alicia's dish was a disappointment. They said it was like a first year culinary student trying to be fancy. Oh, that's
that
cringy.
hurts.
That
That hurts.
hurts.
That
And then
that hurt because outside of Top Chef, their profession, they're known for doing amazing dishes
sure,
and
sure.
things like that. But here's the thing though, you can tell if they would have never came out and the wait staff would have brought their food out, you could have known that that wasn't a cohesive team
Right.
because it came out in the food. You can
Yeah.
always tell an angry chef or whatever by their food. It doesn't taste right. It's not, it's just on the plate.
Yep.
And those two, when they were butting heads and everything like that, like one of them said, somebody's got to be the chef. Somebody got to be
Yeah.
the lead on this.
Yeah.
And when they finally came together, but it was too late. It was too late. And this is one thing I said. If it was two guys in that same position, it would have never ended that way. It probably would have ended where they would still been arguing.
Yeah.
because their egos, male egos, are like two hippos going at each other, and it's like they're going to show their dominance,
Yeah.
whether it's they're right or wrong. It's their way,
Yeah.
and I think the ladies did a good job of calming it down at the end and figuring things out. They didn't do too well on it, but at least they put their profession and their personalities aside to get that food out.
Yeah, they fell for that trap in a team challenge again where they didn't coalesce as a team and they were two individuals cooking their own dish. And the judges even said not only did their dishes clash each other as a pair, but the dishes clashed within themselves. And so you could, like you're saying, you could see that they weren't getting along and they were arguing with each other and it came out in their dish. It's so interesting the way food does that with emotions, right? If you're cooking angry, your food's going to come out that way. It's gonna either not be uniform, the cuts aren't going to be good, or it's going to be too spicy or too acidic. Versus if, as cliche as it is, when you cook with love, you're putting in care at every step of the cooking process, and it comes out in the final dish. And you could tell that they it's funny that the judges said clash because they didn't see, what was going on in the kitchen in terms of the cook, but they could just tell that they had some sort of clash during
Right.
the entire night. So, poor Alicia and Kalina, they just never got it together. And as high as Danny and Rosica was, Alicia and Kalina were on the very opposite spectrum of that. So
Way opposite.
way opposite. So let's talk about Manny and Kevin. So their duality was light and dark. Manny did a chicken and mushroom fiore with sauce poulet auvergnani. I don't know. My French is all messed up. Kevin did a warm praline chocolate mousse with bitter chocolate tuile and Mexican vanilla ice cream. The judges said that the chefs had a good story. It just doesn't have a happy ending. That's what Tom said.
Yep.
Manny's technique was lacking. The pasta isn't well made. It's not cooked enough. Kevin's dessert was delicious, smart, elegant, has nice play of soft and crunchy textures. And for once, Kevin's simplicity came through successfully. The verdict is that one of them nailed it and the other one didn't. And Kevin nailed it and Manny didn't. So it was kind of a split decision, but it was Kevin that kind of put the team on his back in this sense, and carried him through. I think Manny was a little bit out of his element, trying to cook pasta. Personality wise, though, this was my favorite team of the night. I mean, these
Oh
two
yeah.
guys, the bromance was strong with these two. They were working well together. They were helping each other out. But clearly Manny had some issues with his dish. But I think as two personalities, I think best friends were just made at that moment.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
But
I agree with that. I think with Manny, and you heard him say, I hope my pasta's rolled out thin enough. That was his
Yeah.
thing.
yeah,
And as you looked at it, as I looked at his dish,
looked
the
a little
pasta
thick.
was a little thick.
Yeah.
And but he knew right off the bat that something was wrong with his dish.
Yeah.
But like you said, the bromance was there. They worked well as a team. I think if they got together again, they would do a lot better.
And I think with Kevin doing really well in this challenge, it gives me hope that he's going to finally put some points up for my team because he's been a string of negatives for the first 3 episodes. So I'm hoping this is the corner that he turns to do better. One interesting note: Buddha Lowe actually writes a Top Chef recap every week for People Magazine, and he had a really interesting take on Manny and Kevin's dish. He said that my favorite dish was actually Kevin's. It was the best in regards to duality and had all these surprising textures. His dish looked like an intricate sculpture with lots of triangles. It was a restaurant-worthy dish. If this had been an individual challenge, he would have won. But he didn't win because Manny's made a pasta that was cooked unevenly and the filling was dry. So, very interesting take from Buddha on this one, where he thought Kevin's dish, even more than Rosica's and Danny's, he said was the best dish of the night. But because Manny's dish wasn't great, it dragged him. It dragged it down. So, uh, good things I thought I saw of Kevin. Manny has kind of been on a downslope after starting strong in the first couple of episodes. He's kind of on the
Yeah.
downward slope over the last couple of episodes. He's your guy. I'm hoping my guy turns it around. You're hoping your guy gets back uphill, and we'll see
But
what
like I
happens.
told you, like I said last week and the week before, Yeah, I may be up on points, but there's a lot of cooking to be done. I mean, we're only in what, week 4?
Week 4, yeah. Still got 10
Week
weeks to go.
4, there's a lot of, because think about this. They haven't done restaurant wars. They haven't traveled to other places, and
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting to see how this goes. At least I would say in about 3 more episodes,
Yeah.
we're really gonna see the points from you and I start to change.
Yeah, I hope so. And I thought it was interesting. This team with Manny and Kevin, these were both of our number 1 picks. Manny was your number 1 pick. Kevin was my number 1 pick, and they got paired together. So I thought that was really fun and interesting.
I
So,
did too.
so Michelle and Charlie, they decided to go with like a chicken egg duality thing
Yep.
after going to the affordable housing units and kind of getting some inspiration there. So Michelle made a mushroom biscuit with chicken liver mousse, sous vide chicken, and stewed apples. Charlie did Jean Jean. I couldn't remember how to pronounce that.
Jean Jean.
Jean
I've,
Jean.
I've cooked with Jean Jean. I was a guest chef in Haiti several times, and that Jean Jean, I'm gonna tell you, anybody's out there, go get you some Jean Jean and play with it. In Haiti, we did a dish. I did Puerto Rican and Haitian food together. I did a Jean Jean Malou with a seared pork with sofrito drizzled on top of it, and it was amazing. But that Jean Jean, making rice, doing pasta with it, it is amazing. I love. That's one that has become one of my favorite ingredients right now is Jean Jean.
Oh, interesting. I'll find it and try it out. So Charlie made a Jean Jean with egg mousse, chicken skin, pickled mushrooms, and peas. So the judges thought Charlie's seasoning was good. The eggshell on the plate was a little weird, but Buddha liked the concept. Gail noticed a lot of flaws, a lot of technical flaws, inconsistent rice, but felt that the dish was satisfying overall. He delivered a rice dish, not an egg dish, so he didn't really execute his concept because it was chicken egg, and he didn't really concentrate on the egg. It was more about the rice. Michelle's biscuit had good flavor, but it was crumbly and dry, which is a death knell for biscuits. If your biscuit's dry and
Yeah.
crumbly, it's kind of bad. Dominique felt they both cooked with love. So Dominique had some good things to say. Again, Michelle had immunity, so I don't really have a whole lot of comments here about their particular cook. I thought it was unfortunate that Charlie's ISI charger ran out with 40 seconds left to go, and he had to end up having to like spoon some foam into the eggshell. And he's like, "Give me a charger, give me a charger." And he's like, and time's dwindling
Look,
down.
it ran out with about 40 seconds left. And like I said, it takes you about 20 seconds just to take it off and put one on. So he got 20 seconds to do something
Yep.
else. And he did what he had to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was just he had to put something on the plate. So
Yeah.
I felt bad for him. I have felt real bad for him that his charger just went flat. So yeah, I was devastated by that one.
It was unfortunate, but it was a good thing he had immunity. I think he even said that himself in the show. He's like, "Man, I'm glad I had immunity this week." So the last team to present was Laura and Savannah. They decided on a duality of comfortable, uncomfortable. So Laura had a phyllo pastry, pistachios, and pistachio foam and raspberry sauce, and Savannah had dry aged ribeye, mushroom tempura, beaten daikon, oroshi, and wild pistachio sauce. Dominique liked their story, but she's a little confused about whether it translated to the dishes. I didn't really understand it either as I was listening to it. I didn't get it. Buddha didn't get the duality. It went over Kristen's head. As standalone dishes, they said Savannah needed acid and Laura's was familiar but too sweet. So I don't think Laura and Savannah understood really the challenge of what they were trying to achieve. And sometimes you can get away with it with the storytelling of your dish, but they weren't able to do that either. So I don't know. Again, middle of the pack. But luckily, because of Alicia and Kalina's dish that was so bad, everybody else just kind of blended together in terms of blandness, I suppose. So, what did you think of Laura and Savannah?
Well, they cooked together well. I think that it was lost in translation.
Yeah, I think so too.
It was lost in translation. I still like both of them. I think the ones that didn't get eliminated and and their dish didn't rise to the occasion, I'm hoping that everybody will go back and the next week coming up, they redeem themselves. Everybody.
Yeah.
They come back and redeem themselves because they have so much to gain and they see what the number one team did. They're like, man, we need to step our game up with more creativity, more structure. And their plating was like amazing.
Yeah, their
And
plating looked
so
good.
I think the rest of them saw that and like, okay, yeah, we need to go back to the drawing board.
Yep. So let's talk about judges table, and this has to be like the quickest judges table I think I've ever seen, ever recorded on Top Chef. I mean, obviously, we don't know how long they were sitting in the stew room, right? But even Tom said, "Look, I think we have a clear winner and a clear loser. I don't think we need to waste anybody's time in interrogating anybody. Let's just bring out the top and the bottom, and let's just get this done." So they do that. So it didn't seem like it was a long time. So Kristen brings them in. They bring in Danny and Rasica and Rasica, and Alicia Kalina as the top team and bottom team, respectively. So Danny and Rasica obviously were the clear winners of this challenge, and Alicia and Kalina were very clearly the least favorite dishes of the night. And there wasn't any questioning. There wasn't the normal judges table of, well, did you mean to do this, or what? How did you think things went for you in the kitchen, or how was the cook? No, I mean, Kristen just was like, pack your knives and go. Now she did get a little emotional. I noticed that Kristen got a little bit of emotion, almost kind of got choked up a little bit doing that. But they didn't even, they didn't interrogate him. They were just like, "You're done. Go pack your knives and go." I thought that was brutal. I mean, for those two, that, like you said, they in their hometowns, they're really great chefs, known for their dishes, and then they come to Top Chef and are just humbled in a way that I don't think most chefs are. Nobody understands the humility that you go through in Top Chef unless you've gone through Top Chef. It just has this echelon of being able to tear you down and build you back up in a way that I think other shows don't. So for them to go out in such a brutal fashion, I just felt for them. Like, it hurt my soul. Like, for one, they were both on my team, so but it hurt my soul.
And when she got done, you could see the tears and the hurt that came over her. She just couldn't control herself. And and in her defense, in both of their defense, what really hurt more than anything, they know they can do better.
Yeah.
That's what hurts.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like you know you can do better, and for whatever reason, every chef has a bad day. Tom even said that. Every chef has a bad day.
Yep.
This just happened to be that day that they did bad.
Yep. So let's talk about the winners. We waxed poetic about Danny and Rasica already, but let's break it down. So Danny and Rasica were the winning team. So Danny being at the top of the judges table, he gets 3 points. You're still have an individual winner for the elimination challenge, and Rasica was the individual winner, so plus 7 points for her. And she also wins immunity for the next elimination challenge. Now, counting on my memory here, Rasica, this is her second elimination challenge win in 4 episodes, and they won $10,000, so they split it $5,000 each. So that's another $5,000 in her bank. I think she's up to $20,000 now in just prize money. So, I mean, she is a force to be reckoned with. All the other chefs need to be looking over their shoulder and making sure they have her in her sights, because she is not playing. She is killing it. This is your pick. Congratulations, but they are, Danny and Rasica as a team together, like I said, scary. Rasica of the two, I mean, she's got a deep bag.
Well, like
and I'm really looking forward to see what she's going to be doing for the rest of the season.
Like I said before, I picked the women because they're in a boys club. And for someone like her, Michelle, to just rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
And just, so when they win, think about this, when Michelle and Rasica win, they won. They didn't slide in.
Yeah.
They were top choice.
Yep. So as the bottom team, Alicia and Kalina both are eliminated, and both are heading to last chance kitchen. So we're going to talk about that very quickly. Last Chance Kitchen. So Kalina makes an interesting comment when they see Sue for the first time in Last Chance Kitchen. She says, "We, being Alicia and Kalina, have an advantage. We're more familiar with the kitchen and the challenge." Personally, I thought she was wrong here. I don't think they have any kind of advantage because Sue has won two Last Chance Kitchen challenges up until that point, and that's the only kitchen he's cooked in. And he is tuned in. Sue is tuned in to what LCK is all about. He's won over
Yep.
Tom. He's won Tom over twice, so he knows what he likes in those particular challenges. So if anybody has an advantage, it's really Sue because it's been nothing but quick fires for him. All these other chefs have been like, oh, you got 5 hours, 3 hours to cook, these dishes. No, he's been on a run with Last Chance Kitchen.
Killing it.
And he's killing it. And I don't think he's cooked for anything longer than 30 minutes. So he has that internal timer in his brain now. So I don't think that Kalina was correct in this, but we'll see. So the challenge was to create a composed dish inspired by the plates. They wheel out this thing of plates. And they were to kind of like with the Frank Lloyd Wright challenge being inspired by the buildings, you look at the plate and you're to be inspired by whatever plating design you pick, and you create a dish out of that plate. So last week I had said that I suspected that the original chefs view Sue as an outsider trying to wedge his way into the competition, and I was right. I was validated by this because Kenny and Valentine are actively rooting for Kalina and Alicia in this challenge. They were actually rooting for them to win. And Sue said it himself in his confessional interview. They said, no one wants to be my friend right now. So I'm not surprised. I was suspected of that, but this week validated me. So let's talk about the dishes a little bit. So Alicia picked the scallop shell out of the tray of dishes. So she made an aguachile again with cucumber, jicama, avocado, poached shrimp, and cilantro. So aguachile got her in trouble in the elimination challenge. Felt like she had something to prove to say, I can make a better aguachile because I make this 100 times and, I know how to make an aguachile. So Tom said that it was a better aguachile than what she did in the elimination challenge, but it still wasn't spicy but it was brighter. And the jicama added a nice crunch, but there was too much of it. Kalina did a trio plate. She picked a kind of one of those plates that had a 3 divisions in it. So she decided to do beef ribeye 3 ways: beef tartare with mirin ponzu, fish sauce, and soy, a beef tatake with kimchi, pear, and fennel, and a charred ribeye mid-rare with miso and cauliflower puree. That's gutsy because on Top Chef, you never want to do 2 or 3 of a dish because not only are you judged once, you're judged twice or 3 times on the same dish, right? You've been in these cooking competitions. You never want to do X ingredient 3 ways because now you have 3 chances to be judged poorly, right?
And it's not a good feeling because in her mind, I could do this. I can do this. Yeah. I've done it before. I got this. And with the pressure of the time, fighting for your life, the whole 9 yards, and being confident enough, not gonna say confident, being what's the word was, like, I can do this, I'm gonna beat this guy because he don't know what he's doing. They don't know his background, so they right. Like, I got this. Yeah. And you see what happened.
Yep. So Tom said it was a good progression, good flavor. The charred ribeye was the star of the 3, so he had good things to say. So Sue picked a gift box. It was like the ceramic, I guess, kind of looking gift box. So it had a lid and it was a box. And he decided he was going to do a turf and surf. So the turf was a lamb loin carpaccio with aged balsamic, mint, basil, and fennel. And the surf was a glazed halibut with strawberry bisque. I thought the plating was really creative when he did that. He turned the lid over and plated one dish in that one and then had the other dish in the gift box itself. I thought that was very creative. Tom found the strawberry interesting. He said overall it was nicely cooked. So this was a single elimination Last Chance Kitchen. So of the 3, only one was going to be eliminated and go home. So in this one, because again of her aguachile not being up to snuff, Alicia was eliminated. Tom also said being the portions that were off, there's too much jicama and all that. So, and it wasn't as complex as the other 2. So Sue and Kalina move on to the next round. Now, one stray observation that I thought was really interesting is during the end credits of the main competition, after judges table, Kristen and Buddha go back into the stew room, right? And
Yes.
basically give the chefs a good talking to, give them a little kick in the pants, so to speak. They basically said it was not the best turnout of food collectively, and basically told them to get their act together and act like they've been here before. I mean, in a real nice way. Buddha said that this is the opportunity to be pushed to another limit and come out a better chef. And he knows he's been through two of these things, two Top Chef complete competitions. And that's what Top Chef is really good at, is putting you through the ringer and making you think outside of what you normally do and being a better chef because of it. Kristen says that first instinct of what you want to make or what brings you joy or what tells us more about you, that's the seed of inspiration. And then you just make it work for the challenge. I think that little locker room kind of pep talk is what some of these chefs needed.
Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose.
Right? They need that kick in the pants, because beyond Danny and Rosica killing it in this challenge, everyone else outside of, I think, Kevin and a couple of others was really just aggressively bland and aggressively boring in this elimination challenge. What did you think of that little pep talk that Buddha and Kristen gave?
It was needed because all those that didn't get eliminated, the only reason they didn't get eliminated because someone did it worse than they did.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
That's the only reason that they didn't get eliminated, because someone did it worse than they did.
And
so this is
so much worse.
To count their blessings and like, okay, that's why I say next week it should be a lot better. Plating, creativity, seasoning, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, hopefully for my team especially, hopefully they'll put some points on the board, because let's do a draft point update. It's not looking good for me. So let's look at the points right now. So there was no quickfire, so there's no quickfire winner, so nobody gets points for that. So top of the judges table, you had Danny with +3 points, and the elimination challenge winner was Rosica for 7 points. On the bottom, we're both on my team, Kalina and Alicia. So -2 for both of them. So it's -4 total for me. But the Last Chance Kitchen win again, because everybody in Last Chance Kitchen so far has been on my team. I get 2 points for Sue winning, and I also get 2 points for Kalina winning. So if it weren't for Last Chance Kitchen, I would be doing way worse, which, if you can think about doing way worse than what I'm doing now, is saying something. So for the episode total, you as Southern Passion Lounge, you have 10 points for the episode. I have a big goose egg. I would have been in the negatives, but luckily Kalina negated her -2 with a +2 in the Last Chance Kitchen win. And Sue continues. He's the most point generating person on my team right now with his Last Chance Kitchen wins. He got 2 points for that, so that brought me to 0. And the show totals up through episode 4. You have 44 points, and I have 1 point. So it is not looking great for me. But again, we're still early, a lot of game to play. And as we start weeding out some of these chefs, we're in the top 10 now. So we're getting into, there's going to be less people to go around for points. And this could be a time where, all right, so the first few episodes of mine, we're weeding out the chaff, and the wheat is going to rise to the top, and I'm going to start generating some points. Hopefully, that's kind of what I'm really hoping for, because I've only got 1 point through 4 episodes.
Fingers crossed.
What did you think of the episode as a whole? Any stray observations or any notes that we didn't touch on that you saw that you wanted to make talk about?
For me, like I said, as soon as Rosica and Danny got together, I was like, I was excited.
Yeah.
When Michelle and Charlie got together, I was excited. When Manny and Kevin got together, I was excited, because I was excited for them, because they were excited. They're like, oh, we get to work together. And, they, like you said, they became best of friends right in front of our eyes. And even though they didn't win, I still think that bromance is going to continue to go.
Sure.
But like I said, the rest of them, I think from this point on, they see what they have to bring to the table after they see what Danny and Rosica did.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're like, we need to open up that toolbox and dig deeper in there, because they're not playing.
Yeah.
They came to win.
Yeah, I think this is a big reality check for the chefs that didn't go home, for them to get it in gear and hopefully start doing better and living up to those expectations of why they got picked to be on this show. One observation I thought was really funny and I thought was interesting is I love that Rossica made a reference to Ratatouille in the,
Yeah.
it's Ratatouille. If you haven't seen it, it's a Disney animation. It's the best movie about food I think ever made. And it was funny. She was referencing her grandma on her head, like the rat from Ratatouille. And I thought that was really, really funny and such an apt comparison.
Well, with Ratatouille, I'm a fan of that show because of that movie, because the one thing that stuck out was the food critic. He was such a prick. He was so hard on
Yeah.
nobody. What do you mean they're open again and da da da? But I tell people all the time, if you can give somebody a flavor that takes them back to when they were a kid, that you as soon as he put that ratatouille in his mouth,
Yep.
he went straight back to sitting at his mom's table as a kid. And that's that love and that passion that grown folks miss.
Hmm.
And I mean, to the point where, like, when I was a kid, my grandmother would make oatmeal. To this day, I don't know how she did it, but it was the most amazing oatmeal. And when she passed away, I don't eat oatmeal anymore because I just
Just not the same.
it's that. And I always tell people this here: if you, when you're a kid, you have flavors that are embedded in your taste buds. No matter what chef cooks for you, they would never replicate that flavor
Yep.
because it's you like it's close, it's almost there, but not quite there because you have that flavor in your taste buds. And I think that what Rosica, Danny, Michelle, Manny, um, there's a couple other ones. That's what they're going for, is giving you a piece of them on the plate.
Yeah.
That's why when Rosica won, it was something that she got from her grandmother, not from school, not from
Right.
her restaurant, but
Right.
from her grandmother. And
Yep.
that's why you see the people I picked on my team, they're all either Southern chefs, Latin chefs,
Yeah.
foreign chefs, because they cook from where they came from.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's what I love about my team, is they're cooking from their self, and they want to prove that their cuisine really shines, whether it's Indian, Puerto Rican, Dominican, Southern, whatever it is. That's why I picked my team.
That's right. That's right. Well, I think we did another week down. I think again, I thought this is my favorite episode to date, just because of the creativity that was shown within the confines of the challenge. I thought it made everybody step up, and it made those that didn't step up rethink about why they're in the competition, and hopefully they'll step up in future episodes. So, Chef, again, thank you for your time. Again, just want to give you some time here, a couple minutes at the end. Anything you got going on? Any events that you want people to come see at?
Well, I'm going to be in Hastings, Florida, at the end of the month. And if you really like some really good food, visit my website, chefamadeus.net. I have a supper club that I've started that is so interesting because it's a chef's tasting. So how it works is you tell me what you're allergic to, and I show up and cook you this amazing meal that you just sit back and watch me cook. It is
Nice.
amazing. So if you want more information on it, go to my website, chefamadeus.net. Send me your information, and we'll get together on that, and give you more information about that. And like I said, just follow me on Instagram at Chef Amadeus, TikTok Chef Amadeus, and IG at Chef Amadeus. And like I said, I've been taking a lot of messages. People ask me about the show. They love the show.
Awesome.
They love the insight of everything. But like
Good.
I said,
Good.
I get a lot of cooking tips because it's grilling season, and one of my spices, Southern Rub, is great for grilling. So I give a lot of grilling tips. People purchase the spices, and I give them grilling tips on that. So that's about it for me.
Awesome. It's funny you mentioned supper clubs because that's next week's episode of Top Chef. They previewed it, talked about a supper club. So that should be after a week. That'll be really interesting to talk about with you. So,
Yes, sir.
awesome. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it again. Got another episode in the books and looking forward to doing it again next week.
Same here, sir. Look very much forward to it.